I lost my legs to save Ethan. In the 3 years of marriage, he allowed his friends and family to insult me. I questioned him, but he impatiently pressed between his eyebrows. They are just stating the facts. Back then, I didn't ask you to save me. No one asked me if I was willing. All the admiration in my youth turned to ashes at that moment. That night, I mixed sleeping pills into his milk. While he was asleep, I cut off his legs. I fell asleep holding him who was howling in pain. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to 3 years ago. Before the accident happened. One still, brother Ethan is awesome. He can stay with a cripple for 3 years. Bro, you don't understand. Maybe Ethan has some special hobby. This cripple. I say. Vera is to scheming. She tied Ethan for a lifetime with one leg. Bursts of laughter came from the hotel private room. I stood outside the door and clenched my fists. Until the laughter stopped. Ethan's deep voice came. That's enough. Someone pretended to be surprised. No way. You won't really have fallen in love with that cripple. Right? After a long silence, I heard the words, how is that possible? What I mean is that I don't have special hobby. Looking at a cripple every day is very annoying. If it weren't for 3 years ago. Sister-in-law. Why are you here? The door of the private room opened, and everyone's eyes turned to me. Mocking. Sympathetic. But only no surprise. Ethan had a moment of panic and guilt. He strode towards me, his tone full of blame. Don't you know your own situation? What are you doing here? I sat in a wheelchair and looked at him eye to eye. Silently, I raised my phone. You asked me to come an hour ago. Ethan sent me a text message saying that he was drunk and asked me to pick him up. I was pushed into the private room by Ethan. He closed his eyes and sighed. Are you happy now? The man who had just laughed at me raised his hand and sighed with a smile. Sorry. Sister-in-law. We were just joking. We wanted to see how much you care about Ethan. He said that the text message was sent by them using Ethan's mobile phone. They just wanted to prove that I love him very much. These people didn't hide the contempt in their tone at all. I looked at Ethan blankly. It seemed that he already knew. I didn't know you would really come. He saw what I was thinking and helplessly pressed between his eyebrows. You too. Think carefully. Even if I'm drunk. Which one of the chauffeur or friends can't take me home? What can you do by coming? I looked at my legs along his gaze. What can I do? Probably after receiving the text message. I hurried out in a panic, shaking my wheelchair. When taking a taxi, I had to trouble the driver to carry me into the car. Now thinking about it, I'm really very stupid. Rushing to be a joke in their eyes. Since there's nothing wrong, I'll go back first. I lowered my head and left shaking my wheelchair. I didn't know who stretched out a foot to block my way. Sister Vera. Don't leave in a hurry. It's not right if you don't have a drink after coming. Someone handed a glass of wine to me. But I'm allergic to alcohol. I looked at Ethan again. He still chose to be silent, facing the eyes of everyone in the room watching the show. I silently took that glass of wine. Worthy of Vera. Damn. He let out a cry of surprise because I splashed the wine on his face. What are you doing? Cripple. I turned on the electric mode of the wheelchair and mercilessly rolled over that obstructing foot. There were all voices scolding me behind me. I turned it a fear and thoughtfully closed the private room door for them. Ethan caught up and immediately started to blame me. Vera. Don't go too far. They are all my friends. He reached out to pull me. But I blocked him. They are your friends. And I'm still your wife. You know how to defend your friends. But when your wife is insulted, you turn a blind eye? Ethan pursed his lips. This was his subconscious behavior when he knew he was in the wrong, but was unwilling to admit it. I suddenly felt it was very boring and drove the wheelchair towards the gate. Until I reached the gate. He caught up again. They are a bit outspoken. But those are also facts. I don't like the words Ethan for stout. I rubbed my moist eyes hard and tried to keep my voice calm. Let's get a divorce. 3. Ethan was stunned and refused immediately. No. I can't divorce you. I looked at him puzzled. Why? I heard it with my own ears. Clearly he said he didn't like me. In the past. I could still deceive myself. Although his friends were not very willing to accept me. But he loved me. That was enough. Today, after hearing those words with my own ears, I realized how ridiculous I was. The wind at night was a bit cold. Ethan took off his coat and covered it on my legs. It's my fault. Those words just now were nonsense when I was drunk. Don't believe them. In short, we won't get a divorce. Be good. The minty fragrance belonging to Ethan surrounded me, and I finally couldn't hold back my tears. He pushed my wheelchair and walked on the busy street. I'll take you home. For he pushed me and walked slowly on the street at night. He should be thinking about something, and was so lost in thought that he didn't notice a pit in front. I reminded him. After an apology, there was silence again. I opened my mouth slightly. I hope you know that if you find it troublesome, if you don't love me, we can get a divorce. I have liked Ethan for 10 years. But it doesn't mean I will pester him. Ethan's voice was not very happy. I said we won't get a divorce. Vera. I closed my eyes and stopped talking. Past memories kept emerging. 3 years ago. At the moment when the laboratory ceiling fell, I instinctively pushed Ethan away. I saved him. But I was hit and lost consciousness. That day, I had originally planned to confess to him, which was an answer to my 7-year secret love. When I woke up from a coma, what came into view were Ethan's flushed eyes. Vera. Are you crazy? Who asked you to meddle in other people's business? I opened my mouth and found that my throat was extremely hoarse. I wanted to tell him it was okay because I liked him, and it was also to repay the kindness of Ethan's family. My parents passed away when I was very young. If it weren't for the help of Ethan's family these years, I'm afraid I would have had a very miserable life. I wanted to get out of bed and pour myself a glass of water. Only then did I realize that my legs had lost all feeling. The guilt in Ethan's eyes grew even stronger. He took my hand. From now on, I will be your legs. Vera. Let's get married. I admit that at that moment, I was so happy that I was dizzy. Okay. Ethan. In fact, I have liked you for 7 years. Ethan held my hand tightly and didn't say a word. I subconsciously ignored a trace of reluctance in his eyes. 5. When I woke up in the morning, Ethan had already left. There was a glass of milk heated by him on the bedside table. The company has been very busy recently. Don't wait for me for dinner at night. I took a sip of the milk. It was sweet. But I never liked sweet milk. The sound of banging came from outside the door, followed by a loud shout. Sister-in-law. Good morning. It was Ethan's cousin. I let out a long sigh and thought to myself that this was really a nuisance. Yvonne affectionately put her arm around me, but her eyes were full of sarcasm. Sister-in-law is really good at causing trouble for my brother. In yesterday's drinking party, there were several people my brother needed to win over. Your crazy behavior really caused him a lot of trouble. What should you do now? Sister-in-law? I looked at Yvonne calmly. You can ask Ethan to divorce me. After the impulse of happiness subsided, I could occasionally feel that kind of helplessness from Ethan. He always kept a distance from me faintly. His friends didn't treat me like this at the beginning. In fact, I understand that they just said what Ethan couldn't say for him. So I have said more than once that if it's because of the life-saving grace, it's not necessary. We can get divorced. But he always refused. Yvonne sneered. You don't think that my brother doesn't divorce you because he likes you, do you? She forcibly dragged me onto the wheelchair. I struggled, but it was useless. What can a cripple resist? She chuckled in my ear. Come on. I'll take you to see a good show. 6. The good show Yvonne was talking about was Ethan having an intimate date with another girl. Through the glass window of the lovers' restaurant, I saw Ethan tuck away the stray hairs on another girl's forehead with my own eyes. The love in his eyes was about to overflow. Yvonne pouted. See? That's the person my brother likes. I didn't understand. Then why doesn't he divorce me? I'm not the one who is pestering, Yvonne said indignantly. It's all because you took the initiative to coerce my brother with the life-saving grace. If he divorces you, what will he become? An ungrateful person. Why are you pretending to be generous? Isn't this all calculated by you? I don't understand why everyone thinks that my saving Ethan is out of scheming. I only lost my legs. But what he lost was freedom. The people inside were cheer-focused and didn't notice me not far outside the window. I laughed and wheeled myself closer, gently knocking on the glass window. Yvonne didn't expect me to do this and her face stiffened. What are you doing? It's so funny. Clearly she brought me here, but only allowed me to feel sad secretly after seeing it. She couldn't stop me in time. The two people inside noticed us. Surprise and panic. Ethan soon appeared in front of me. Vera, listen to me. He didn't know what to say, and looked at Yvonne reproachfully. Who asked you to bring her here? Yvonne pouted unhappily. I'm just feeling sorry for the real sister-in-law. Obviously. You two have been in love for many years. I was stunned. In love for many years? But before I wanted to confess, I had asked Ethan indirectly if he had a girlfriend. His answer was no. Otherwise, I wouldn't have summoned up the courage. Vera, go home first. Ethan scolded Yvonne and then called a car for me. Wait a minute. I raised my hand to stop him. I want to talk to the lady inside. Vera. Ethan frowned. He was unhappy. I gently took his hand. You'd better listen to me. Otherwise, I don't mind shouting in the street to catch the mistress. I'm a disabled person. I've seen strange looks a lot these years and I'm immune to them. It will only be you who will be embarrassed. Ethan's frown deepened even more. But he should care a lot about the person inside. In the next second, he pushed me into the restaurant. Ethan, is this your wife? The one who saved you back then? The girl seemed to know me. She propped up her head with one hand and smiled at me. Hello. I'm Stella. Ethan's first love. 7 like those people. She showed no malice towards me on the surface. But it was all malicious. Ethan, take your cousin and sit over there. I want to talk to Miss Vera. With just a few words. She took the initiative. Ethan took Yvonne and sat not far away, looking at us worriedly. Miss Vera. Stella easily stirred the coffee in front of her. You know, if it weren't for you, it should be me who married Ethan. I don't know. I told her. I've never seen you in his circle. I didn't know at all that he had a first love. Stella raised her head. Her eyes a little resentful. We were in a secret relationship. Because of my family. Ethan said his family wouldn't agree. Only Yvonne silently supported us. We were in a secret relationship for 2 whole years. Before the accident happened, we were both ready to confess to our families. Unfortunately, you intercepted us. No wonder Yvonne hated me so much when she learned that I was going to marry Ethan. But can this be blamed on me? I have asked him more than once if he has a girlfriend. It was he who chose to hide it. After the earthquake, he chose to marry me on his own. Stella saw my thoughts and chuckled. Are you curious why he had to marry you? I looked up at her. Instinct told me that this answer wouldn't be good. Because he found your secret love diary. Vera. When Stella said this sentence, there was hatred in her tone. He didn't find it early or late. He found it right after you lost your legs and fell into a coma. He found it in front of Ethan's family elders. You still say it wasn't on purpose? Miss Vera. My mind went blank. So he had read my diary. Ethan originally wanted to pretend he hadn't seen it. But Ethan's mother saw it first. The elders were kind-hearted. I grew up under their eyes. The two families have been friends for many years. So that day, Ethan's mother asked him, Do you like Vera? She was thinking that if both of them had affection for each other, then being together wouldn't be a bad thing. Unexpectedly, Ethan thought it was pressure from the elders. I will marry her. He gave up Stella under the pressure he thought he was under and married me. So that's how it is. I thought of how excited I was when I learned that Ethan was going to marry me and revealed my true feelings. It was simply a joke. He can divorce me now. But he didn't. This is what I don't understand. Stella showed a mocking smile. Because you are useful. Ethan is in a critical period of promotion. If others know that he abandoned his savior, what will others think? Miss Vera, you have already made him embarrassed once. Don't make him embarrassed a second time. Okay? So scheming. Who knows if the death of both parents is retribution? Atai couldn't help but splash the coffee in front of her on her face. She could say anything. But she shouldn't have mentioned my deceased parents. Vera. What are you doing? Ethan protected Stella in front of him as quickly as possible. I pointed at her. She insulted my parents. Stella was very embarrassed. With tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't. I was just explaining our past to her. It was her. Ethan looked at me full of anger. Apologize. I stared at them for a long time and laughed. Okay. Before apologizing, can I say a word to you? Ethan didn't speak. Which meant he agreed. Come closer. I'll only tell you this matter. He came over and bent slightly. Slap. I slapped him as hard as I could. Divorce. Ethan's face completely darkened. Vera. I said we can't divorce. It's not possible to divorce. So he cares so much about his own face and reputation. But this time I don't want to fulfill him and drown myself. Then wait for the lawsuit. I turned the wheelchair and left. But was pulled away from the wheelchair by a strong force. I was thrown on the ground. Ethan's eyes were red. Divorce? Look at you. A cripple. Who will want you without me? I looked at him in disbelief. Unable to believe that these words were from him. Am I a cripple by nature? Ethan was annoyed. Yes. To save me. You are my great savior. I beg you. Did I ask you to save me? Did anyone ask if I was willing? I'd rather be the disabled one myself. Do you know how much pressure this guilt has brought me? Do you know how much I have lost because of this kindness? He complained bitterly about the pressure after owing me half his life. I'd rather you didn't save me. I stared at him blankly. A faint smell of urine wafted out. Under great humiliation, I lost control of my bladder. Seeing this, Ethan quickly picked me up and put me back in the wheelchair. Look at yourself. What can you do without me now? He was full of disgust and covered me with his coat. I'll take you back. You calm down and think about it carefully. Ethan called a car for me. The driver was a plump middle-aged woman. He had instructed in advance and gave the driver a little tip. He asked her to push me back after arriving at the station. Perhaps seeing that I was in a bad mood. Before leaving, she gave me a thumbs up. Girl. There is still hope in life. She might be afraid that I would commit suicide. No, because just half an hour ago, I received a text message from a stranger. It was a screenshot of a chat. Brother Ethan. Sister-in-law is determined to divorce you. It seems that the affectionate wife persona in front of President Gu won't work for you. But it doesn't matter. If one way doesn't work, we can take another way. Remember President Qi I mentioned to you before? He loves playing with disabled people the most. Isn't Vera just? Anyway, she is going to divorce you. You can take this opportunity to catch her handle and accuse her of cheating. This way, you don't have to bear the stigma of abandoning your savior. 9:00 tomorrow night. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. That person said a lot. And the word okay, that Ethan replied made me completely desperate. So cruel. Blaming me for saving him, and giving him pressure. And still squeezing the last bit of value from me to pave the way for him. I don't know who sent me this text message. But no matter who it is, I have to thank him. 10 Vera. I'm back. Ethan is back. Drunk. He staggered up to me and squatted down. I'm sorry. I was a jerk during the day. Let's not get divorced. Okay? I looked at him calmly and showed a gentle smile. Okay. Really? I nodded and handed him a cup of hot milk. I was also wrong about what happened during the day. Drink this cup of milk and sober up. I booked a flight to Maldives for tomorrow. Shall we go on a trip together? Ethan was first panicked and then confused. Tomorrow. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Okay. I smiled and handed him the milk and watched him drink it. The drug took effect quickly. As expected. Ethan fell to the ground unconscious. 11. It's really troublesome when a person can't walk. It took me a full 2 hours to cut off Ethan's legs. He woke up halfway through. His crazy screams forced me to stop and stuff a towel into his mouth. He shook his head wildly. I quickly comforted him. It's okay. I won't kill you. Just your 2 legs. Anyway, you don't cherish them. So it's better to give them back to me. He made a whimpering sound, probably begging for mercy. I stuck the chat record on his face. He finally became quiet, leaving only pain and despair. At dawn, I finally cut off those 2 legs. The knife is blunt. Ethan fainted and woke up several times. After I finished, I took the towel out of his mouth. He was already on his last breath. Vera. Forget it. I stuffed it back in again. I'm too lazy to listen. I realized it too late. My life was already ruined at the moment I lost my legs. Since he wants to completely destroy me, then I have to destroy him first. I lit coal in the room and fell asleep holding him who was sobbing. It's good. At the moment of realization, I took away a beast in human skin for the world. 12. I didn't expect that I could open my eyes again. The numb feeling in my legs made me stare wide-eyed. I was reborn. Before the accident happened, I jumped up suddenly. The others in the laboratory were all startled. Junior. Are you okay? I stared at my legs and answered perfunctorily. I went back to my 2nd year of graduate school. At first, in order to be closer to Ethan, I chose the same major as him, and even tried to get into the same group as him. As a result, that accident made me give up my studies. Feeling the strength coming from my feet, I trembled with excitement. It is now May 8. In the afternoon. There are still 10 minutes before the ceiling loosens and falls off. In the past, in order to save Ethan, I risked my life to push him aside. But I was crushed under the ceiling. Vera. What's wrong with you? A big hand touched my forehead. It was Ethan. Do you have a fever? Do you need me to ask for leave for you? I subconsciously avoided his hand. There was a trace of hurt in his eyes. Our strange behavior attracted the attention of others. Oh. Did the young couple have a fight? In the past, I always chased after Ethan. And Ethan? He neither accepted nor refused. So everyone jokingly called us the young couple. No. He has a girlfriend. I have nothing to do with him. I quickly denied. I feel unlucky just being associated with Ethan in this life. Seeing me refuse so quickly and mentioning his secret girlfriend. Ethan was slightly stunned. He lowered his voice. Vera. Is there some misunderstanding between us? I looked at him and suddenly understood the strangeness between us. Ethan has a girlfriend at this moment. But he is still ambiguous with me. Even now that I have made it clear, he still refuses to admit it. Does he want to have an exciting relationship but not give up my kindness to him? It turns out that the person I liked was rotten from the beginning. Be careful. A cry interrupted my thoughts. The ceiling started to fall off just like in my previous life. Ethan was just standing in the center of the ceiling, and I was just on the edge of the falling ceiling. In my previous life, I pushed Ethan aside regardless of myself. In this life, I quickly ran away from the dangerous place. Vera? Ethan called me incredulously. In the next second, the ceiling crashed down. Ethan cried out and then fainted. 13 out of morality. I still called an ambulance for Ethan. The doctor said that Ethan's legs are useless, and he can only spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair from now on. I barely managed not to laugh out loud. Vera. Why? Why didn't you save me? Ethan woke up. His voice was hoarse and with a crying tone. As if I were a heartless person. You could have pushed me aside. I tilted my head. Ethan, don't pretend. I know you have also come back. Before getting married, Ethan never called me Vera. And just now he asked why I didn't save him. Exposed. Ethan blushed. He originally wanted to stand on the moral high ground and take the initiative to make me feel guilty. I sat down beside him and gently patted his leg. Ethan, your legs are useless. Do you remember what you said to me in your previous life? Did I beg you to save me? Did anyone ask me if I was willing? I would rather be the one who is disabled. I looked at him with a smile. Didn't you not want to? Now congratulations on getting what you wanted. You don't have to feel guilty because of me. You have only lost your legs now. But you are open and above board. There is no need to force yourself to bear unnecessary responsibilities. Ethan stood there stunned. His face as colorful as an overturned palette. Vera, why didn't I realize before that you are a lunatic? Can't you tell what angry words are? His expression overlapped with the way he boasted in his previous life that he didn't need me to save him. When I saved him, he blamed me. When I didn't save him, he still blamed me. I was so angry that I reached out and slapped him. Dare to contradict me when you know I am a lunatic? Do you want to have your leg cut off again? After hearing my words, Ethan suddenly trembled. Too many things had happened in succession. He almost forgot how he was brutally killed in his previous life. It's me who is confused. I always hated women like you. It's good not to be forcibly bound in this life. He was trying hard to save face for himself. 10 minutes later, Ethan's mother rushed over in a hurry. Ethan's father couldn't come back as he was doing business in other places. Poor her. A mother. Had to bear this bad news alone. Auntie. Don't be too sad. At least he is still alive. As long as he is alive. It's good. I comforted Ethan's mother symbolically. In my previous life, she wasn't bad to me. But not particularly good either. Before I got married to Ethan, she truly regarded me as a daughter. After marriage, she also truly felt sorry for me. But this pity couldn't withstand the passage of time and the size of her own son. So, when Ethan's cousin bullied me, she chose to turn a blind eye. Vera, be careful. Ethan was a little anxious. He didn't want his mother to worry. But now he couldn't even turn over by himself. Vera, his father and I are busy. Thank you for coming to take care of Ethan. Ethan's mother, crying, took my hand. I know you have feelings for Ethan. In this situation. Saying this, she burst into tears again. I understood what she meant. She was worried that Ethan would be unwanted. Just like she was worried about me back then. I spoke without hesitation. Auntie, I only regard Ethan as an older brother. Moreover, Ethan has a girlfriend. Ethan's mother looked at Ethan in disbelief. Is what Vera said true? Ethan pressed his lips tightly. He didn't want to reveal it so soon. But now I had forced him to. I thoughtfully added. I have just informed her to come. I don't want to be a third party who breaks up others. I hope you understand. As soon as I finished speaking, Stella in white had already appeared at the door. Her reaction was similar to Ethan's mother's. Shocked and crying. Ethan's mother had met Stella before. She didn't like this girl very much because there were two elder sisters and a younger brother in her family. Such a family was not worthy of her son. But in the current situation, Ethan's mother couldn't say much and could only leave on the pretext of buying food. 15 Ethan. The little white flower with red-rimmed eyes was extremely pitiful. But Ethan avoided her gaze. Vera, you shouldn't have called her here. In my current state. How can I? He couldn't continue. There was a light liquid spreading on the sheet. Stella subconsciously took 2 steps back. With a hint of disgust in her eyes. This scene was noticed by Ethan. And his self-esteem was greatly hurt. Vera. He looked at me with pleading eyes. I remained unmoved. What? You can't expect me to do this kind of thing. Can you? With your girlfriend here. Is it appropriate? After scolding Ethan, I turned to Stella and said, Miss Stella, I have also heard a little about your love story. Since you love each other so much and are presumably going to be together for a lifetime, now you should learn to take care of a disabled person. Under my urging and moral coercion, Stella struggled to help Ethan up. The door to the toilet was slammed shut. I didn't miss Stella's resentful expression. I smiled. When I was the one who encountered a misfortune before, they could immerse themselves in their noble love that they couldn't have. In a different situation, under the pressure of life, could they still be so firm? 16. After a brief conversation with Ethan's mother, I left. Ethan had his mother and girlfriend. Naturally, he didn't need me, an idle person, to be in the way there. I lived my life as usual and attended classes as usual. I could walk freely and run freely. The long-lost sense of freedom fascinated me. I heard that Ethan was not reconciled and was doing rehabilitation training every day. But unfortunately there was no improvement. Ethan's mother contacted me from time to time. In her words, she was dissatisfied with Stella. It was nothing more than that she didn't take good care of Ethan, and wasn't as careful as I was. Ethan also wanted to find me, but unfortunately all his contact methods had been blocked by me. Until 3 months later, when I was having a meal with my fellow apprentices in the same group, I ran into Ethan and them by chance. 17. Stella pushed Ethan, and came towards me. The expressions on both of their faces were not good. Stella was busy scolding Ethan and didn't notice my presence. What are you doing here as a cripple? Aren't you ashamed? This disgusted tone was in sharp contrast to Ethan's gentle appearance before. It's no wonder Stella lost her temper. I secretly investigated. Ethan's so-called romantic love was nothing but Stella's long-planned scheme. Stella's original family was not good. She hoped to find a man who was rich at home, and not very intelligent to help her change her destiny. Ethan appeared just in time. But unfortunately, I intercepted him in my previous life. As for this life, Ethan, who was being despised, flushed red. If I don't come, how would I know what you and your friends say about me? Stella sneered. Saying you are a cripple, a man who is no longer capable? Are they wrong? Look at yourself. You need my help even to go to the toilet. What else can you do? If it weren't for getting out of that family, who would be with a cripple like you? Ethan rumbled all over. What? What did you say? Stella ignored his murderous gaze. If I had known it was so troublesome to take care of a cripple, I should have changed my target at the beginning. Ethan roared. Divorce. Before the wedding is held. It turns out that they have already obtained the marriage certificate. It seems that Ethan's mother also knows her son's situation, and no longer allows him to be too picky. Stella, upon hearing this, unceremoniously punched him twice. Divorce? Do you think I don't want to? After taking care of you for 3 months, I'm almost sick of it. If it weren't for your damn mother, do you think I would be willing to marry you? The little white flower is such a devouring look after taking off her mask. But such a person is a perfect match for Ethan. I couldn't help laughing out loud. And the two finally noticed me. When Stella saw me coming, she hurriedly got rid of Ethan. This hot potato, you come just in time. Take your brother away. At the beginning, when Ethan and Stella were in an underground relationship, he always claimed to Stella that I was his younger sister. Stella glanced at Ethan infuriately. I'm going back to the party. Don't cause me any more trouble. A teen. Stella left without looking back, leaving me and Ethan looking at each other. What he is experiencing now is exactly the same as what I experienced back then. Ethan, do you remember what your friends said about me back then? Ethan turned his head aside, his body trembling imperceptibly. I'm sorry. I don't know. I interrupted him. You know everything. It's just that when things don't happen to you, you don't care. Well, don't be unhappy. To me, Stella is still pretty good to you. She just scolded you a few words. She didn't give you to an old man with special hobbies. Did she? I was comforting him kindly. But I didn't expect his face to turn paler and paler. No. Vera. Listen to me explain. I didn't really want to hurt you. I've arranged everything. Incense was lit in advance in the arranged room. He will pass out before he makes a move on you. The next day. As long as you pretend. He excitedly explained until he saw my icy gaze. In fact, I already loved you a little bit back then. Slap. I slapped him with all my strength. Feeling that one slap was not enough, I slapped him several more times. Vera. Ethan was shocked and angry. But now he couldn't fight back at all. I suppressed my anger. How dare you mention love? Giving me to another man is love. Letting your friends insult me is love. Two-timing is love. You don't love me. After you found out that you were crippled. Your white moonlight no longer loves you. What you want is just someone who is wholeheartedly devoted to you. Does a selfish person like you deserve love? 19 Since that day, Ethan has never come to find me again. My life is getting more and more unrestrained. Occasionally, someone mentions Ethan to me and says how bad his life is. I heard that Stella is still pretty good to Ethan in front of Ethan's mother. But in private, she beats and scolds Ethan. I don't know what's wrong with Ethan. Being bullied like this. He doesn't say a word. I guess he really loves Stella. Yvonne called me several times. In her words, she regarded me as a close sister. That Stella. I used to think she was kind and weak. I didn't expect her heart to be so black. Sister Vera. It would be great if it was you who married cousin. I smiled. Don't talk nonsense. Ethel and I are siblings. Yvonne pursed her lips on the other end of the phone. You're not biological siblings. Aunt just raised you for a few years, and you're not even on the household registration book. Sister Vera. Why don't you go and crash the wedding? It's on the 10th day of next month. Hearing her say this, my eyelids twitched. In a trance, I remembered that before I got married to Ethan, Yvonne didn't actually have so much malice towards me. After I got married to Ethan, she suddenly seemed to change into a different person and got closer and closer to Stella. Now Stella is the one who is getting married to Ethan. Could it be? I asked seemingly casually. Yvonne, you don't like. Before I could finish speaking, there were continuous denials on the other end of the phone. How is it possible? How could I like cousin? After a long silence, Yvonne stammered, well, it's true that I like him a little bit. But he's my own cousin. We definitely can't be together. So I want to find a good sister-in-law for cousin. Sister Vera. Don't you really consider my brother? I smiled and perfunctorily replied. And then saved the recording on the contrary. I will go. Yvonne let out an excited cheer. A month later, I appeared at the wedding scene. 20 When I arrived at the wedding scene, Ethan was being pushed out by Stella to receive guests. Ethan probably felt ashamed and ground his teeth. Do you have to make me come along? Stella slapped him on the back of the head. If you talk nonsense again, I'll tear your mouth apart. I didn't expect their relationship to have deteriorated to such an extent. To say that they can still get married is thanks to Ethan's mother, who deliberately wants to torture Stella. When Ethan was healthy, she would never allow someone from Stella's family background to approach her son. But now that Ethan is crippled, families of equal social status naturally wouldn't marry their daughters to him. Ethan's mother originally intended me to be her daughter-in-law. But a few months ago, Ethan was determined to be with Stella, and she didn't have the face to ask me to take over Ethan again. Doesn't Stella's family love money? Ethan's mother simply gave them $300,000 at once and bought Stella. After that family got the money, they happily handed over Stella's household registration book. At the beginning, Stella was still willing to take care of Ethan perfunctorily for the money. Only after being tricked into getting married, did she know that she was bought out by Ethan's family. Ethan's mother wouldn't give her an extra penny. Divorce? Don't even think about it. Isn't it earth-shattering love? Then lock it in. Ethan saw me. He looked at me from afar. his gaze falling on my legs, revealing a longing. 21 Ethan's mother still didn't show up. This is clearly a slap in Stella's face. But I don't understand. Has Ethan's family also given up on Ethan? After Yvonne sitting at the relatives table saw me, she quietly gave me an okay sign. This is the plan she came up with. In the middle of the wedding, our years of moments with Ethan will be shown. In her words, Ethan has feelings for me. At that time, he will definitely feel regret and even break off an engagement publicly. This can not only ruin the wedding, but also slap Stella in the face to the greatest extent. However, she deliberately didn't mention that this would also put me in an embarrassing situation. Her calculations are too loud, so I have to quietly make a few more moves. 22. Isn't this Ethan's little follower? A familiar voice. I looked back and saw his brother who had embarrassed me by Ethan's side before. TSK, that's K. Look at your eyes. You can't forget the disabled. Do you have some special fetish? His words are frivolous, neither respecting me or Ethan. If you don't want to eat this meal, get out. Ethan appeared by my side at some point. He angrily reprimanded his former brother. Hugh looked at us contemptuously. You still think you are someone? Seeing you disabled, I pity you. I tell you, your father has taken your 12-year-old brother home. There is actually a bastard in Ethan's family. I can't help being surprised. It seems that Ethan has been given up by Ethan's father. As for Ethan's mother, forget it. Get out. Ethan is already on the verge of fury. It's a pity that he can't get up and beat him. Hugh was ordered to leave by Ethan but instead sat down casually. Get out. What are you making a fuss about again? Ethan? Stella chased after him and kicked Ethan's disabled leg angrily. Don't you think I've lost enough face today? Stella scolded and beat Ethan again. Come on, sister-in-law. Give Ethan some face outside. Hugh laughed. Moreover, the old lover is here. As he said this, he turned his gaze to me. I didn't want to cause any more trouble at this moment. But Hugh is really too despicable in this life, and the previous life. I picked up the red wine on the table and splashed it directly at him. In his shocked gaze, I warned him. Insulting Ethan is your business. But be clean with your mouth when it comes to me. Otherwise, I don't mind telling Ethan's family about the things you did secretly. For example, that Stella always likes. In the previous life, Hugh always introduced all kinds of girls to bosses with abnormal hobbies. That Stella always is the favor he found for Ethan. When Hugh heard me mention Stella always, he instantly became as meek as a quail. Vera. Ethan choked and called me. I'm sorry. I really didn't know that life after being disabled is so. The suddenly playing big screen interrupted Ethan's confession. I saw Yvonne stand up excitedly. 23 Sister Vera. Why don't you snatch the bride? On the 10th day of next month. Yvonne. Don't you like? How could it be? How could I like my cousin? Well, it's true that I have a little bit. But he is my own cousin. We definitely can't. So I want to find a good sister-in-law for my cousin. There is no playing picture on the screen. But the conversation between me and Yvonne is clearly sent to everyone's ears. This already chaotic wedding became even more chaotic. Yvonne screamed and demanded that the playback be turned off. Stella strode forward and grabbed her and started beating her. She was swearing non-stop. Several people couldn't stop her. I was amazed. Yes. A girl who grew up in a rural family that favors sons over daughters can't be a delicate little white flower. Thinking of our previous conversation in the restaurant, her peaceful and carefree appearance made me feel only irony. I quietly left the scene while the chaos was going on. Behind me was Ethan's repeated calls. 24 What happened later I heard from others. After Yvonne's hidden thoughts were exposed, her parents had a big fight with their own brother. They thought that it must be that Ethan did something excessive that led Yvonne to develop wrong love. Ethan's father, who was already disappointed in Ethan, completely gave up on Ethan this time. Even Ethan's mother had no choice but to give up on her son. Fortunately, the mother of the bastard died early. At worst, they could treat him as their own son and cultivate feelings in time. Stella is already on the verge of madness. She has completely lost face. And the title of shrew is also known far and wide. She wants a divorce. But Ethan's family doesn't intend to let her go. Ethan's family thinks that they ruined a son all because of this woman. If it weren't for her captivating Ethan's heart, Fawn and I should have been a couple. With my feelings for Ethan, how could I not save Ethan in that accident? At that time, it would be me who broke my leg. At worst, let Ethan marry me. Ethan's family is naturally happy to do such a good thing to gain fame. Their calculations are so good that my last bit of sympathy for Ethan's family disappears. 25 half a year later, Ethan committed suicide. He took Stella with him before he died. I heard that Stella got in touch with Hugh and quietly introduced Ethan to an old man with special fetishes. After that, Ethan woke up and completely went crazy. While crying and saying that he knew he was wrong, and that he was possessed by evil spirits at the beginning, he cursed Stella for not having a good end. In the end, he said in a delirious state that he would change time again, and he would definitely choose Vera firmly. He hired someone to sneak into his own home and quietly replace Stella's commonly taken health supplements with sleeping pills. While Stella was in a stupor, he set a fire in the house and burned himself along with it. 26 after Ethan's death, I received a letter. It was sent by Ethan. I guess it's nothing more than some unsubstantiable confessions. I didn't even open the envelope and directly threw it into the trash can. Start over? Impossible. God will not give villains another chance. Even if there is. No matter how many times it is repeated. I will never waver for him again. I have a clear life goal. I will only become a better version of myself. End of full text. Full text. Full text. Full text. Full text. Full text.